For those of you tuning in, welcome. There's going to be a lot of information on the show, and I'm very, very excited about it. You know, Nader and I have known each other for years, obviously kept up with what he's doing, and he's been on the show a few years back, and it's great to have you back on the show. Nader, let's kick it off, man. Who are you? What do you do? And we will go from there.
So my name is Nader Dabit. I'm currently at Cognition working on the growth team. And for the last, I would say, 11 years, I've been doing developer education all the way from just local meetups and coding schools in Mississippi, where I kind of am from and lived, all the way to like leading developer relations teams at companies like AWS, Aave, and now I'm working kind of across multiple roles at Cognition. And at Cognition, we essentially are an AI company, and we have a platform for developers and teams that are deploying coding agents at scale within their companies.
That's awesome. So again, the purpose of these streams that I want to do is really help people better position themselves with the market right now. AI is kind of changing everything. I'm even using it. I'm literally using Claude right now to create a custom dashboard with my team. It's pretty tremendous. I feel like a magician, and I'm not even a developer, so I can't imagine how developers feel right now. So Nader, I want to go ahead and just kick it off to you. What's your general thoughts? Are people behind what people should be learning? Let's just kind of kick it off super broad right now.
It's for sure like the most interesting, crazy, confusing time in the history of my career to be a developer, first of all. But there's always kind of like a spectrum of how people look at what's happening. Like on one end, you have the pessimists. On the other end, I would say you have the optimists, and you have everyone kind of in between. And I would say the people that are kind of like more on the optimistic spectrum are often like more proactive, and they're out there kind of like being real with the current situation as opposed to being in denial and trying to find ways to stay ahead of the curve. And if you kind of look at some of the discussions on social media, you'll see certain people hinting towards like AI code generation. It's just not good. It's not good enough. It's not going to be something that like we're going to really use in production or whatever. And those are less and less, I would say, nowadays. And then you have people on the completely other end of the spectrum that are literally out there building abstractions to enable agent orchestration. And I think the people on that spectrum are the ones that are doing much better in the job market, and they're staying ahead. And my general take is that you can't deny that this technology is here and it's getting better and it's not going away. And that our jobs as developers are completely different than they were. Everyone knew we would get there at some point in time, but I think it was maybe a little earlier than a lot of people thought.
Yeah, I have so many questions to ask you based off everything you just said. The first thing I want to ask is, are we heading towards a place where you're just going to be a developer? Like, are we heading towards that now or no?
Well, I think that everyone now is basically a developer. Like a lot of the stuff that a developer, quote unquote, would do can be done in natural language now. I think there's still the category of like engineering that is a lot more complex, SRE and DevOps. I think that sort of thing is still not yet automated. Then you also have a lot of the ML, I would say, roles that are also not quite, for sure, not automated at all, right?
Sure.
Auto research is interesting to kind of look at that. That might disrupt, certain other areas as well. But then you have also the creator of OpenClaw, who are GigaChat agent orchestrators. They kind of really, really understand this at a deep level, and they're able to create an insane amount of value and be able to, again, be acqui-hired at hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the end of the spectrum that you want to be on if you previously considered yourself as a developer. And that's kind of was just a thing that went through my head when I was doing something.
So what does orchestrating agents mean? As somebody who's non-technical like me, you've brought that up now a few times already. What does that mean for somebody who may not know what that means?
It just means that you have agents that are integrated into your code base, that are doing different things, and you're able to control them in a way that is very, very efficient. I would say there's two main ways that you see people like working with agents at the moment. One of them is like locally. So you have essentially a code base that you've checked out locally with Git or whatever, and you've spun up like Claude Code or Windsurf or Cursor or something like that, and you're just iterating synchronously. So you ask a question or you prompt and you get a response and you test it out. And then you have the other workflow, which is like async, where you're sending multiple requests in parallel. So you might say, do this, and then you might jump into another session, say, do that, and then you have another session, do that. And all these things are kind of like happening at the same time. But I would say working synchronously locally is often like what most people get started with. And then for like large code bases, large teams, and for collaboration, you have like background agent experience where you're kicking off a bunch of tasks asynchronously.
All right. So let's kind of break it down for folks who may be watching this, who are early in their career and or have been kind of more in the enterprise. What would be your biggest suggestion for folks who are in an environment and or starting out where they just don't have access to these tools? What can people do today to start learning all this, and start messing around with it? Do you have any other suggestions on how people should get started?
There's two things that I would do. Number one, I would set aside about $100 a month, and I would kind of try to experiment with the most bleeding edge tech that's out there. Codex, Claude Code, Windsurf, and I would kind of like stay up to date with what else is coming out there and maybe drop one of the others as other things come out. And I would have like my daily driver, and then I would have like a couple of other things that I'm kind of just kicking the tires on. So you have Open Code, which is really nice. You have, I would say, Conductor, which is really cool. I'm going to plug Devin. Devin's free to get started. I would definitely check that out because it's kind of like the only true like background agent platform that exists today. And I would just kind of really say $100 a month, totally worth it. Don't eat out or something for a couple of days if you don't feel like you have the money. It's going to like make you a lot more money, right, in the long term, just by being on the bleeding edge of this stuff. That's number one. Number two, how do you actually know what's there? Well, it's staying on that bleeding edge. And for me, there's a handful of ways I do that. Number one, I look at Hacker News every day. I actually have a Claude bot that summarizes the top stories from Hacker News in a certain category and like sends them to me in Telegram every day. I would also stay on top of GitHub trending, and then I would have like a curated list of people on X that I follow and kind of try to see what they're talking about. So like if you have the money to set aside to do that stuff, you have these notifications set up or this like a daily curated content that you can kind of go and look at, then you're going to be like in the top 0.1% of the world. There's just so many people that just show up to work and they don't really keep up with any of this stuff. You're going to be way ahead of them, but you also might be way ahead of most people that are trying to keep up. Yeah.
So I'm curious, what do interviews look like? What do people need to be able to do? I would imagine the interview process has changed tremendously.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question.
Because I think like you for sure.
Oh yeah, it's going to be all over the place. I mean, you're even seeing these massive companies. I forgot exactly which CEO, but there was a CEO that basically said, if you're not staying on the cutting edge of everything that's going on, like we just don't even want you in the company at all.
Crazy.
So like that's kind of the mindset I would go into an interview. It's always been a fast moving industry. It's just moving 10 times faster now, which is you could either look at it and say, oh, that sucks, or you could look at it and say, oh, that's an opportunity. And you want to be obviously on that end.
Yeah. So you bring up another great point. The job postings for software engineers are actually going up. And I think the general thesis is that AI is taking people's jobs, but I actually think AI is creating more growth because of the smaller companies, and that the startups that are starting, especially around AI, are the ones hiring engineers. And there's actually more opportunity than there has been. Thoughts on just the general state of that comment?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad time right now to be a developer, but you can't, again, just be, we were saying, just a front end or a back end or Python or whatever. You have to kind of be someone that's well-versed in a lot of different things. Because when you think about it, they can't just hire someone who is a vibe coder to replace an engineering team, right? Like that's not happening actually. The people that are being brought in still need to understand how GitHub works. They still need to understand like version control. They need to understand how to set environment variables. They need to understand database schemas and security, and all these different things still actually really matter. So it's not like some random person off the street that's kind of learned how to vibe code over the weekend is going to take your job.
No, I'm not taking anybody's job.
But like, yeah, someone that is like just fresh out of some other industry or fresh out of school, whatever, that spent the last year really going hard at all this probably could take your job. So I would just say being like AI native is kind of like indispensable at this point. And if you're not already that way, you should kind of start moving in that direction.
So one of the things AI has done, and it's allowing people to solve bigger problems much faster. What are your thoughts on just telling people like, hey, you need to start thinking holistically on how to solve business problems? And I understand that developers were hired to solve business problems, but I think a lot of developers like, I'm only going to solve the problem that's here. And I think what AI is doing is it's allowing people to solve more problems a lot faster at scale. Thoughts on that?
That's absolutely correct. A combination of technical expertise and business acumen would definitely be something that would set you apart in general. And so again, I think it's just about expanding what you're able to do and your skill set in general, and not kind of like boxing yourself into anything like really small.
You're validating my talk, so I appreciate you. I want to talk about the X comment you made about following people and creating lists. Talk about the importance of that, because not many people talk about that. And that is worked into my talk about literally creating lists to follow people, to learn from people. Talk about just the importance of that with how much noise is out in this market right now.
Oh gosh, yeah, there's so much noise in the market right now.
So much noise.
I mean, if you are early into something and you're able to kind of like make a name for yourself there's a lot of value there. You know, keeping up with all this stuff for 12 or 13 or 14 years at this point, I've always kind of tried to understand like what's the newest thing, and given me so much opportunity in my career. I would say React Native was kind of like the first thing. When it came out, I was like, oh, this is going to be big, and I went all in on it. And I've always tried to curate ways to find the latest and the greatest.
Let me ask you this, Nader, just because I think this is kind of a random question and it just popped into my head. What are your thoughts on these companies? I saw one post on X, I'm sure you saw it too, about somebody hiring an AI dev advocate. What are your just thoughts on that? Are we heading to where like we're just all going to be chatting with bots, or do you think that's just kind of a marketing endeavor?
I think that was definitely a good marketing stunt. I think the sentiment is kind of the complete opposite. If you look at the founder of OpenClaw, like he literally blocks, kind of like calls out anyone that does any automated conversations on X. I think that people don't want to interact with AI at the moment. It's just not good enough for that sort of thing. It's great as an assistant to a human. And a lot of the large DevRel teams can probably and realistically will be condensed because each person can get a lot more done with AI. But I don't think anyone wants to just only talk. Like if I saw like a company that has like an AI DevRel person or an AI whatever, I might ask it for information, get some of the things I need from it, but I wouldn't that impressed.
Yeah. So that was just a random thought. I want to ask you this because, you know, you are, you know, you travel a ton, you go to conferences. Aaron Francis and I talked a little bit about this, that really the power of in-person, I think, is probably ramped up more than it ever has. What are your general thoughts? I mean, I know you're very active in the community, you're going to events. What are some words of encouragement to folks to encourage them to get to a conference, why they should get to a conference, why they should get to meetups, especially in the age of AI right now?
The purposes of this discussion and what you do for a living specifically might just be the fact that these recruiters and a lot of these job platforms are just overwhelmed with submissions because it's so easy now to automate that. And you have people that have the ability to essentially tailor cover letters and resumes specifically for companies without even knowing the company exists, right? If I have a bot that can go and scrape 1,000 job listings and then create a custom cover letter and a custom resume and then submit that, and then everyone else has access to that technology as well, they're going to be flooded with 100,000 like submissions. So you are not standing out digitally, and it's really tough to do that. And I think in person allows you to kind of meet that person and make a human connection. And I think that what I've seen is a lot of people being able to land jobs, cut through all of the red tape, and just land opportunities because of a real world connection that they made. That's one thing. I think like building community in person is obviously also just another thing that is a lot easier to do than digitally. I think digital is still the best medium for conveying information and teaching. Like, I don't think I would go to a conference and fly across the world just to learn something because I could just watch the video at home later. But I would go to kind of like network and meet people and, oh, we're all interested in the same thing. This is amazing. And like that will probably make the community of that thing like last longer and be stronger. So
I think with this sea of AI is that everybody can learn anything at their fingertips now. And I've even thought about it just from a content perspective with the Torque community and helping people in their career. I think it's important digitally to be able to teach people. And so I do think as we continue to go down this road, it's going to be interesting to see what conferences are going to look like. That's just kind of my general thought.
Totally. Yeah, I have no idea the answer to that, but I've also kind of wondered that as well. I mean, I think in the past we used to see a decent amount of technical talks about how to do something, but I think now we're going to be seeing broader, like higher level talks, maybe.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
Agreed. Nader, as we kind of slowly wrap up here, so I got some rapid fire I got to ask you. Anything else that maybe we haven't covered that's kind of popped into your brain?
No, not really. I would just say never subscribe or prescribe whatever to the doom and gloom type of things that you kind of see. There's always a positive light. There's always kind of a good opportunity to be made out of like all situations. And if you kind of like try to maybe follow people that have a similar perspective and always look for that opportunity, there's always going to be an opportunity out there. Because if you do kind of like take the opposite, it'll ends up, in my opinion, kind of leading you down the path of that and having less opportunities. So
there you go. I love it. All right. As we wrap up here, rapid fire. And again, please go connect with Nader on all social media. Nader, what's your handle on X?
Dabit3, DABIT and the number 3.
There you go. So go follow him. Go send him a message. Tell him you enjoyed him on the show. All right. So the first question, what's one tech tool or app you can't live without right now?
I would say just in general, the agentic CLIs. I really love those because I use them outside of just coding. I use it for research and writing, and I use it for just all types of random things.
I love it. What's the very first job you ever got paid to do?
Working at my father's clothing store, taking out trash.
I love it. That's awesome.
And cleaning boxes and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love it. What did you want to be when you originally grew up? Like when you were young, were you a lawyer or doctor, or were you always hard coded for development?
When I was younger, because my family was in the clothing business, I wanted to just work in the clothing business with them. And that was kind of the first thing. But the first thing I actually tried to do seriously was law, and I dropped out very quickly because I couldn't deal with the school part of that.
I hear you. Well, let me ask you this. Is there a career mistake you're oddly grateful for? Like looking back on, maybe not a mistake, but like something you did that at the time, you're like, it probably wasn't the best thing, but in hindsight, it kind of worked out.
I think there's been a lot of things that I really wanted to happen that didn't happen, that I was sad about at the time, that in the long run ended up being like a blessing, like failures that actually weren't failures. And a lot of that was kind of like asking for a raise at a job that I wouldn't have wanted to be at, or like not getting an offer at a job that I thought I wanted, things like that. So I think just being able to move past those things and not let it affect you, you end up finding something better.
Agreed. And let me ask you this. If I told you tomorrow that you couldn't do anything in tech anymore, but I pay the same amount of money, what hobby would you pursue for a living?
Probably some form of teaching.
Any specific subject?
I like philosophy a lot, and I don't know how I would teach that, but I don't know how you teach that either. To figure it out.
I love it. All right, last question. So the show's called Guidance Counselor 2.0 because we had guidance counselors in middle school, high school, and college, but now as adults, we don't really have anybody to turn to and ask for general career advice. What would be your biggest piece of career advice to young Nader if you were to go back in time and tell him something?
I would say it's probably something around the feeling of imposter syndrome, or the feeling of not being ready to do something and waiting to do something as opposed to just doing it. I think that's kind of a very well discussed thing now these days in the general zeitgeist, but just being able to kind of ship things when you're not feeling like you're confident enough to ship them, putting things out in the world and just moving forward quickly without having to worry about anything that's like in the past would be kind of scary to do. But I think that's kind of the main thing. Just kind of like, just do it, just ship it. No one's ready. You have to kind of just like prepare yourself that things might not be perfect, but you're going to learn something from it. It's better than not doing anything.
Yep, absolutely. And then the last question, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
I love it. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate y'all. But y'all have a great one. Connect with Nader, and we'll see you online. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
Thank you.